Hard copy coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I am Terry Ikumi. Now, the focus tonight is, as expected, the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections. We will x-ray some of the big moments in the build-up to the elections proper, and the eventual outcome. All this as we look towards the governorship and state houses of assembly elections coming up. My guest is a senior advocate of Nigeria and human rights lawyer who has had his fair share of politics. He's contested an election and led a political party. He's quite popular for his activism and representation of the oppressed. Mr. Femi Falana. Mr. Falana, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Just as I read in my opening, you've been in the political space. You've mixed that with your activism and legal aspect of your life. What's your assessment, from your point of view, of the elections that we just concluded, the presidential and National Assembly elections?
Well, I wasn't in any way taken aback by the turn of events. I had expected that President Buhari was going to win.
Oh, you did?
I do travel all over the country because of my illegal and political involvement. I also never for a moment subscribed to the highly erroneous belief of the elite that the social media was going to win the race for anybody. I was very confident watching the rallies all over the country. The majority of those who were going to vote have no business with the social media. I was very convinced about that. In fact, I used to make guests of a colleague, a friend of mine who is a senior journalist, whose newspaper was fond of harassing the public with a projection map. And I used to tell him that the map was just a product of the imagination of some people in the newsroom of his newspaper, and that the projections had nothing to do with reality in town.
What's the reality in town that you saw that fueled your confidence that President Buhari would win?
Well, you see, you also have to understand the politics of the country. President Buhari is the luckiest politician anywhere in the world. For reasons which I'm yet to fully appreciate. He has a followership that is extremely faithful to him. Lucky man. He's never been reported to have given a dime to buy votes. And you know, he's also not a politician who mixes with members of the political elite. So he is seen there by majority of the ordinary people in his political base as one of them.
But you know, some persons questioned if he would win, considering the fact that there were some defining moments, as some would put it, that would have suggested that he had fallen out of favor with the majority of, with some, at least,
unfortunately,
electorate.
Well, you know, fortunately for him, and unfortunately for, you know, some of those who were challenging him, there wasn't a moral challenge. A moral challenge. Now, all the other negative in terms of his performance in office, which the elite were very critical of, has nothing to do with those who were going to vote. So the entire campaign, very negative campaign in the social media, if you followed such campaign, you would think there's still no chance.
Mr. Falana,
Mr.
Falana,
Yeah.
Beyond President Buhari's accolades that you have given him that probably endeared him to the hearts of many Nigerians who voted for him, would you have been surprised if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar had won this election?
I would have been flabbergasted because of many implications, even for the country.
What implications?
You see, what I'm saying is that both of them represent the ruling class. Yeah, take it from me. And between the APC and the PDP, and people could not make a difference. I mean, couldn't say a difference. As least for the ordinary people.
Well, I'd like to know.
It's like a difference between 6 and half a dozen. Ideologically. But in terms of the way and manner both of them have operated in the country, one was consistently under pressure to defend its integrity, while the other one was flouting its integrity. And I think it was some of the media in the West that said that the choice of Nigerians was between a dictator and a kleptocrat.
Let me take you back. You mentioned the implications that it would have had on the country if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar won. What implications are you talking about?
You see, I think the campaign, in fairness to him, fairness to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, he had a lot of problems. He had to defend some of the very negative comments and views expressed by President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is served as vice president. Because those views are in a permanent form in books, interviews, on television, in the print media. 2, it was under investigation by the US government for a leg transfer of $40 million. And when he also went around campaigning to the fact that he was going to sell an NPC, and he was asked in Lagos, to whom? My friends.
But the PDP said that statement was taken out of context.
You see, those were, no. It was quoted and quoted and quoted, never denied the representation. I'm not saying that APC does not really believe in privatization. But in their own case, I mean, for instance, there was an attempt to sell our shares in LNG. And as soon as democratic forces said no, the ones that were sold, where is the revenue realized, for the country? Don't go there. Of course, the government said, okay, we'll look for other ways of funding our budget. And of course, you must not forget the fact that the politics of the country, unfortunately, is now devoid of ideology or principle. Hence, you could be in one party in the morning, be in another one in the afternoon, and return to base before you go to bed. So the choice of our people was extremely limited.
But then it would seem as though President Buhari had fallen out with a section of the country due to what some would call division from his appointment.
Fair promises, yes.
It's quite surprising. Beyond the full promises,
fair promises.
We're talking about appointments now. It would appear as though this election was going to be dependent on that factor. But it's quite surprising, don't you think, that despite that, he still
let me also warn you about appointments. There's a general belief among the political elite, a is the belief that you are speaking for the people. Somebody was president of Nigeria for 8 years from my own part of the country. The roads were not fixed. There was insecurity. There was no job for young people. No employment. So what has that got to do with me? Or the fact that you have people from all what they call reflecting federal character in appointment. In what way does that translate to improving the quality of life of our people? Just like our football teams. The fact that majority of those who play for the country come from a section of the country is irrelevant to Nigeria. The day they win a match, everybody goes to the street to celebrate.
If you talk about federal character, why do we have a federal character commission?
No.
If that's a certain place
I'm not
to correct
saying,
some of these things.
Get me. I'm saying, don't make a mockery of federal character. What the Constitution says, Section 14, Section 14 subsection 3, is that the government of Nigeria shall be constituted in such a way to reflect popular wishes, federal character. But that is not totally reflected when you have members of the elite from all the six geopolitical zones to the exclusion of the majority of the people. I'm talking of women who vote more than the men. I'm talking of young people. Nobody talks about young people. Nobody talks about workers. So when you say, oh, this regime, the cabinet is skewed, you know, one part of the country is more represented in the government. Nobody is talking of the people. Nobody has ever said, who is the worker in the cabinet of the government? How many women are representing, you know, how many women are in the cabinet? Nobody bothers about that.
Is that the same thing?
It's all about, oh, how many Yoruba people, how many Igbo people,
is that the same thing when you're talking about
Hausa Fulani or Hausa people or Fulani people?
Persons in positions where decisions will
do
be
they
taken.
Represent,
policy makers,
no, do they represent themselves or represent the people? That's what is important. Like I told you, if both regimes believe in these neo-colonial, neoliberal policies, and you gather people from the country who are neoliberal ideologues to tell the people, government has no business with your lives. Let us privatize everything. What are you? Ask everybody from the 36 states promoting that, promoting the interest of imperialism. In what way can you say they are representing the Nigerian people? So please, when we are talking of federal character, we must not limit our horizon as such to the elite.